Good afternoon, friends. This is Kerrie with Conversations at Kerrie's Korner for our second podcast of the week. Thanks for joining me. And I hope wherever you are enjoying this very first day of spring. I'm in Texas and the weather is a gorgeous, beautiful spring day. A little chill in the air, which is even encouraging for us. We've been in the 80s already. It's going to be a probably long summer with the heat, but spring is here and it's a new beginning. And I wanted to talk to you today about a conversation that's really important. And the conversation is about immigration. Conversations at Kerrie's Korner is about coming to the table and talking about issues that affect all of us in our society here in the United States and probably elsewhere in the world too. But that's where I am located. And so that is what I want to talk to you about today is immigration. As somebody who moved to America in the late 60s, my parents and my two brothers and I moved here from Australia for my dad so he could pursue his career. We were going to be here 5 years, and almost 60 years later, we are still here. The five of us came to this country, and we have lived the American dream. And we have been unbelievably blessed by this amazing country and its people. So I know what I'm talking about when I talk about the immigration system and how it works, and what is, in my opinion, right and what is wrong. When we came to this country legally. We arrived at the shores in Miami, Florida, legally. We legally took the steps that we needed to do before we left our native Australia and came here. So when we came here, we were legally in the United States. We didn't arrive here illegally. We didn't cross a border illegally. We arrived with documentation legally in Miami, Florida. We then became permanent residents of this mighty country, and we started our American dream pretty quickly. My parents did it the right way. They applied the correct way, the right way. And since then, almost all our family is naturalized American citizens. And our children born here are American citizens. And my grandchildren are American citizens, along with my brother's children and their kids. And I do not understand how a president, I'm talking about President Biden, can insult millions and millions and millions and generation after generation, how he can insult us by opening a border, all of our borders, to allow illegal aliens, many of them criminals, to come across our border and invade our country with no consideration given to those decades and generations of Americans who came here the right way. Legally, processed legally, naturalized legally. And his decisions were a blatant slap in our face, an insult to every single naturalized American, to every permanent resident that came here, did what they had to do, went through the process, paid the fees, took the tests, and naturalized to become an American citizen. How did he justify that insult to millions of Americans? I will never understand it. He claims to be a true American. A true American president would not turn his back on millions of us who did our residency and our citizenship legally. There's no justification. There's nothing that he can say. There's nothing that he can do that will ever erase that insult to generations of Americans. And it's not okay. It is not okay, because some are still in this process of naturalizing, but yet there are millions of illegals who have come here under Biden and Harris, who were given phones, given money, given a job, given housing, and even given a fast track to U.S. citizenship, none of which any of us were even offered. Another slap in our face. But we don't hear any of that conversation from the people on the left. Why? Why is it okay? Why is there no apology to millions of Americans who did it correctly over generation after generation? Some went through Ellis Island and then their descendants, and yet there are millions of criminals in our country today working with phones and money and housing and jobs, while those who came here legally potentially are still struggling to ultimately have their American dream. How is it okay? It's not okay. It's not okay for Biden to have never addressed it, or Harris, or any of his administration. Even today, there's nothing. It's just like all of us didn't exist. And their unbelievable irresponsibility allowing criminals, so many violent criminals, have come into our land, have raped and murdered our children, who have taken over housing projects, who have taken American jobs, and there's no accountability. There's no apology. There's not even an acknowledgement on the left that any of this has happened. And yet, we're all supposed to just remain silent and just accept this unbelievable insult and slap to our face. All of us who have done this the right way. What does it mean? It means that we are doing it the right way, and we wouldn't have had it any other way because we know it's the right way. But for our own government still to never acknowledge this unbelievable insult is really disheartening. Now, we have a president today who will never allow that to happen. Thank heavens. President Trump understands how all of us feel. But that's not going to take away this insult for 4 years as we watched millions after millions after millions do what was wrong, and there was no accountability. So what's wrong with our society is that there's no accountability. And you know what's even more frustrating is if you're naturalizing and you call to find out why it's taking so long. You know the answer? The answer is, well, we're not worried about you. We'll get to you when we can. We have other priorities. Really? Those priorities must be taking care of those who have illegally came across the border. It's a very disheartening, disappointing fact. And there's never been one acknowledgement from a government official to say it was a mistake. Not from any of those that were in power during this massive invasion of our homeland. And the only thing I can hold on to is maybe this will be an example of what not to do in generations as they come. Because for all of those wanting to come to this amazing place, and by all means, come legally. Come find your dream. But do it legally. Because when you do it legally, you don't insult all of those who have come before you and done it the right way. That's my hope, is that this time period of American history will always be an example to those who are governing and in our government, that we can never have a massive open border again. How many Americans have to die at the hands of criminals before there's accountability? There still hasn't been accountability. Biden and Harris have never once picked up the phone and apologized to the men and women who have lost children, or women who have been raped, or children who've been sold into prostitution, or families that were evicted from their homes because a gang infiltrated and took over their housing. There's never been one apology, not one. And that is truly a disappointment. And my prayer is that it can be used to ensure that it never happens again. Because why would people want to come and do it legally if there's no accountability for those who haven't come legally? And right now, our government is doing the right thing. If you are not here legally, you have no rights. You're not protected by the Constitution because you're a criminal. You are not here legally. And so therefore, you have no rights. None. You're a human, and the only right you deserve is to be treated with humanity. That's it. Nothing else. And you know, I've heard a few people talk about, well, what do we do with all these people, all these criminals, murderers, rapists, drug traffickers? Why do they get treated better than the average person who is already here legally? In my opinion, because we don't want to spend any more money, nor should we, because none of us have been given all of these great, grandiose perks for coming here the wrong way, the illegal way. So you take all of these criminals, you put them on a helicopter, and you take them to the Amazon, or to Africa, or to the Andes Mountains, or anywhere else. And you tell them, we're taking you here. We're giving you an opportunity to be free. Not give them a damn thing. Put them in wherever we decide to take them. Let's just choose the Amazon. You put them in the Amazon and you say, good luck. You're free. If you can make it and live on your own, you have your freedom. But it's not going to be in the United States, and we're not going to give you another thing. But by all means, you're free. If you can survive, then you've earned your freedom. But it's not in the United States. And none of those people should ever be allowed back in this country ever again. If they're criminals. If they're not criminals and we send them home, by all means, do it the right way. Spend the money. Fill out the forms. Wait, just like all the rest of us had to do. Then by all means, you're welcome here because you've done it the right way. The way we've had to do it. The way generation after generation has done it. There should be no double standard when it comes to legally coming to the United States, becoming a permanent resident, and then naturalizing. It's one way or no way. There cannot be two standards. Because if you allow two standards, then you insult and minimize every single journey coming to this great land and doing it the right way. And that's not okay. You have no rights and protections from our Constitution if you are here as an illegal alien. There are no rights. There's nothing in the Constitution that protects you if you are illegally here. None. If you're legally here, then yes. There's no gray here. You either are legal or illegal. And if you're legally here, you are protected. If you're not, I'm so sorry, but you violated and you are now a criminal, so you have no rights, and you should go back to wherever you came from. It's the way it has to be. It's the way it can only be for us to have a strong, healthy, secure nation where we are controlling who is coming in to protect all of us who are already here and who have done it the right way. So I hope President Trump sees this and considers the alternative. These people, the left feels like these people need another chance. Well, there's your chance. Put them on a helicopter. Take them to the African safari. Take them to the Amazon or the Andes or any of the other countries where they will have to survive to have a life. They don't get to just be given an American way of life. That's not fair to all of us who have worked hard, paid the fees, taken the tests, and naturalized the right way to become citizens of this great land. You minimize every single one of us by no accountability. And that, in my opinion, is Biden's epitaph. He failed the American immigration system more than any other president in American history. And I hope it is a lesson for decades to come. We have to protect our sovereignty. We have to protect our land and our country and those in it who are legally here. They are the priority, not the illegal criminal who has decided to walk across or swim across a river, period. And there are no rights afforded to those people until they are legally here and protected by our mighty Constitution. There is no gray. You're either illegal or you're legal, and there can't be anything in between. Konversations at Kerrie's Korner is all about these types of topics. Coming back to the table and working together, listening to each other's opinion. We don't have to agree. We have to agree to disagree, and we have to listen and respect each other's opinion. Something that, in my opinion, the left is just unwilling to do. Some on the right, but the majority the left. If you can't sit civilly and listen to somebody and respect their opinion, our country doesn't have a lot of hope. Because we cannot stand divided. We have to be united. We can agree to disagree. I can agree that I don't agree with your position, but I respect your position, and I have to be awarded the same thing. You have to respect my position, and it's just not what's happening. Sooner or later, if it's not corrected and we don't get back to the table to talk to each other, the generations to come may not have what you and I have seen, and that would be a real shame. Because this is the greatest country on earth. And those who come here legally should be entitled to every privilege and exciting, beautiful thing that happens. But it's not going to continue if we don't figure out a way to listen and talk to each other and resolve our problems and differences. A divided nation will never stand, and we are divided. We've got to come back to the table and talk to each other to ensure our futures. Don't our children and grandchildren deserve what we had? I think they do. The way to do it is to talk to each other, resolve our differences, and move forward to make the United States a better place. When you think about having a conversation, you think about these remarkable places, right, where it just breeds the ability to talk to each other. As a little girl, when I first came to this country, we traveled a lot, and we would stop at these beautiful diners. They were chrome and gold and red and all of these sparkling things with normally a really long bar that you could sit at and have a cup of coffee. And I can remember my parents having conversations with people they had never met and watching them and realizing maybe they think differently now because of this remarkable conversation. And that's what they did. They sat down, they talked to each other, they listened to each other. They didn't always agree, but they talked to each other and they listened and they influenced each other's opinions calmly, rationally, intelligently, by listening. We got to get back there. We got to get back to those diners. Sit down and have a cup of coffee with somebody that you might not agree with. Listen to their point of view, and they listen to you. That's where true change starts. And I pray we can get back there. And my last message in this podcast today is we are owed an apology. All of those millions of people and generation after generation that have come to this amazing country the right way. Where is our apology? Where is the acknowledgement that we've been slighted? It's a slap in our face. And it's never been acknowledged. And it should be. Because we've done it the right way. How can you ever ensure that it won't happen again unless those who have caused it acknowledge their mistake? Is President Biden big enough to admit the mistake? His vice president and his administration, or anyone on the left? Are they big enough to admit their mistake? Because their mistake cost Americans lives. And that's never acceptable under any circumstances when you are the leader of this land. And you've never acknowledged, under your watch, Americans died because of your mistake. That's the legacy of the Biden-Harris administration. Too bad, isn't it? Sad, disappointing, and disheartening. But now there's new administration correcting the problem because he understands how we feel about it. And on his watch, it'll never happen again. And I pray his conduct and his actions will be the example for the next generations to come. Thanks for joining me at Conversations at Kerrie's Corner today. I do want to hear from you. Give me some feedback. Let me know your thoughts. Do you have a solution? Do you have some ideas that we can share? Because that's where we need to get. We need to get back to the table to talk to each other and communicate about all of these social issues. by talking. Let's meet at a diner and have a cup of coffee. And let's talk about it. Thanks for joining me today at Conversations at Kerrie's Korner. God bless, happy spring, and God bless the USA.